Are you ready to vibe? You're listening to Creepy Vibes Only.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Oh, sorry, Lewis, it's okay.
No one is here, Lou. It's just the three of us. It's okay.
Go back to sleep. Yeah, hopefully this time Lewis is chiller.
Yeah.
He's a lot calmer today, actually.
He is. Hasn't attacked me yet.
Yeah, he went to the dog park.
Oh.
Yeah, he had a good run.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very special.
Cool for him.
It's so nice. He had a good Zoom. I know he's a snuggly guy.
A big horse.
He took the prime spot on the couch, which is one of the corners.
Typical Lou.
He's like, I'm very comfortable. Oh, Lewis. Lewis, don't knock over the microphone. Okay, bye.
Lewis is done for shit.
Yeah. Lewis was like, now that we turned on the recording, Lewis is like, let me walk right in front of the mic. So we'll see how that turns out. Professionalism in the podcast.
It's okay, Lou. You're forgiven.
Yeah, you're very cute.
So,
we're back to recording in person again.
Yeah.
We migrated from my room to the living room.
Mm-hmm.
Big exciting changes here.
Well, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, God.
You know, one thing I've noticed that we have stopped doing since our summer blitz recording.
What?
We've stopped asking our what's keeping you up at night?
That's true.
We've lost our brand.
That is our brand. Yeah, what is keeping you up at night?
None of us. I don't even know.
Okay, great. I'm so glad we got into this.
What
a good prompt.
Let me think. What do you have anything?
Oh, I've been listening to audiobooks until 2 a.m. And because typically I listen to a podcast, usually something by the McElroys, because I've listened to them all already, at The Adventure Zone or My Brother and Me. But I've gotten really into a few different series.
Okay.
For audiobooks. And the challenge is I want to keep listening to them. So I just stay awake. I don't go off into dreamland as though I've already heard it and it's soothing to me. I can no longer listen to The Adventure Zone while I drive because I start to fall asleep. It's Pavlovian now. Not to say it's not extremely entertaining. Not that a McElroy would ever listen to this podcast because they're actually
Imagine if they would.
I'd cry. I would actually cry. I'd be so starstruck. They're so cool. Yeah, no. I mean manifesting, right?
Yes.
But no. So I've been listening to just just different books, whatever I want to, because I'm finally using up the 15 Audible credits that are on my account.
Nice.
Historically, Ryan's been the only one using them because he uses my Prime.
And now that we're on Audible, you can listen to us and
Yeah, that wasn't even an intentional segue.
There
but
you
what a good
go.
setup. Yeah, listen to us on Amazon. Give us a good review. 5 stars only.
Exactly.
It's not positive. We don't want it.
No.
Okay, I feel I give you ample time to think. Are you just sleeping super well?
I actually am.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Things
have been great. I'm sleeping.
The only millennial who's getting proper sleep these days. Oh my God. Also, shout out to Sweden.
Yes.
We now have Swedes.
We do.
Sweden, we love you.
It's so exciting.
We also went into Anchor today and we're just poking around. Americans. You guys.
Yeah.
There's so many different states listening. That's so exciting. And Canadians.
Yes.
Did not realize we're a coast to coast Canada thing. I figured
it's freaking weird.
Yeah, I assume British Columbia is Samantha and not Al.
I don't know anyone anywhere.
Okay, well that's good. You know people in Quebec.
Do we even have people in Quebec? I feel like we probably don't. Maybe just my mom.
I'm too scared to leave the recording area, so we'll never. I guess we'll never know. Actually, I can look on my phone. Let's see. Quebec.
It'll be on the next episode.
Quebec, are you showing up?
Actually,
yeah. Canada. Let's see.
We just have my mom.
It's just Sil. Oh, it doesn't say. Maybe Jovi.
I think she doesn't listen to it quite often.
That's fine.
So she wouldn't show up on the stats.
She's a busy woman.
It's fine now. Yeah, she has a baby.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Crazy.
God.
But yeah, no, actually, I'm sleeping very well.
You and Lewis, eh?
Yeah, we've been doing great.
Well, that's good.
Mm-hmm. You know, the one thing that did a few nights ago, the coyotes nearby had went crazy.
The
coyotes, and they've scared the shit out of Milo, which then scared shit out of me.
Because Lewis isn't there to protect him this time.
No. Yeah. So that was it. It's the only incident I've had.
Well, I mean, that's good. At least it's coyotes and nothing nefarious.
Yeah.
Stephanie lives near a ravine, so she's convinced ghosts walk through her house
all the time,
constantly. It's like what's it called? Grand Central Station.
Yeah.
Just
you've had scary shit happen at my house. You, Lou.
That is true.
So
there was a shadow. I don't know what it was. Maybe I had a small stroke. I guess we'll never know.
Also, yesterday was your birthday.
Yeah.
Yay.
I turned 30.
You've joined the land of the 30s.
It was so funny. So I turned 30 yesterday, and I literally went to bed at 8 o'clock at night. So I could listen to my audiobook. Because I was tired. I didn't sleep the night before because I was up listening to my audiobook. So I was like, I need to go to bed early. So I turned 30, and I'm not even kidding. Went to bed at 8. Got up this morning at 7. It was fantastic.
Good for you.
Yeah.
See, that's what it's great.
Just living the dream. So anyone who texted me who I didn't respond to, that's why. I put on airplane mode and I went to sleep. It was like, goodbye, everyone. Hope I don't get any important phone calls.
I remember calling you because I want to know what time I showed, and then hang up, go home. Then holy shit, I didn't even wish her a happy birthday.
That's fine. I come to expect it.
I texted you though.
You did. You did text me. I did respond to that.
Yes, you did.
You did say thank you. That was before I went to sleep. Living the dream.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, who's starting this week?
I started last time, so you can start.
Oh yeah, keeping it's you stuff. All right. Okay. So I have a very exciting lead up.
Oh.
I say that it's not. It's a pretty generic, in a world. No. In 1585, England established the Roanoke settlement on what is now the coast of North Carolina. In 1590, the settlement was found to be completely empty. All 116 residents had disappeared without a trace.
I know what this is.
Yeah, a single word was found carved into a fence post. Croatoan.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah. Also get into it. Colonizers. Okay, so kind of some backstory. It's basically colonizers being colonizers and then disappearing, but we'll get into it. I say it as the child of colonizers. Anyways, in 1584, Elizabeth I, so Queen of England, gives Sir Walter Raleigh a royal charter to colonize North America, as they were doing across the world. Basically, they did this because they wanted to have a base of operations in this particular case, so they could raid the Spanish fleets going from Central and South America back to Spain.
Okay.
So they just wanted a spot they could launch off, fuck up their ships, steal their treasure,
and go back and chill.
Yeah. All the while exploiting land. So Walter Raleigh's sick. And he sends the first expedition to explore the east coast of North America. And they land on Roanoke Island. And they establish what is quoted as good relations with the indigenous people who lived on the island. Yeah, take that with a grain of salt. So this particular indigenous group were named the Croatoans.
Okay.
So the expedition then brings 2 Croatoans back to England with them, and the Croatoans then kind of explain how they live successfully on the island. Raleigh's oh wow, thank you very much for this helpful information. And in order to thank the indigenous people, what he does is he sends out a second expedition, which then exacerbated their exploitation of land resources. What a great thank you. So, unsurprisingly, the indigenous people didn't love that. Yeah. That then kind of led to, not kind of, but did lead to significant fighting between the indigenous people and the colonizers. Okay. And only 15 men from the expedition stayed to protect the land Raleigh had claimed as England on Roanoke Island. So they kind of left a smaller group there. So in 1587, Raleigh sends a third and final expedition. He decides his friend John White should be the leader and then govern the colony. So this voyage is different. So the first couple were just expeditions sending a crew to either explore and establish a settlement or protect the settlement.
Mhm.
The third one had women and children, so they were truly going to settle the
Okay.
island. So they were establishing a truly functional colony there. So when White arrived and his group arrived, all they found in the previous group of 15 was one skeleton.
Nice.
So off to a smashing start.
Great welcoming party.
Yeah. So John White is like, oh, good. And
I think the children are here.
yeah, like, welcome guys, it's great. He then reestablishes what is again considered good relations with the Croatoan, but understandably some indigenous people that the previous travelers had struggled with refused to meet him.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So John White returns to England later in the year, leaving the group behind. What a good governor. So in 1588, he wants to return, being John White, but the Spanish Armada has begun an assault on England. So the ensuing war then basically prevents him from going back to Roanoke, and he couldn't gather supplies and then go back to Roanoke for another 3 years.
Oh, shit.
So 3 years passes, and on...
So is this like 3 years of them not getting supplies?
Yeah, no one goes from England to them in 3 years.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, like, they're North Carolina.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But I mean, like, I'm not terribly familiar with the East Coast, but I imagine, like, actually, I bet you winter's pretty hard there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like a settlement of 116 people. It's not a huge group.
But not a lot of people to feed.
That's true. Well, either way, on August 18th, 1590, he arrives on Roanoke Island, and it is completely deserted. There's no evidence of, like, violence or any other, like, big disaster. It's, like, just completely deserted.
Weird.
Nary a soul to be found. So the only clues he found, I say he, I assume there were other people with him, that kind of give any hint to, like, what had happened was the word Croatoan, which was carved into a fence post, and the letters CRO, so crow, carved into a tree. Any buildings that were there were totally disassembled.
Oh.
So that kind of leads us to believe, like, it wasn't an urgent, like, they didn't flee urgently.
Yeah.
Or maybe if they did, someone came into all the stuff after, I don't know. So they assume people hadn't been forced out in, like, a quick rush. The colonists had been told that if, like, they were forced to leave, like, against their will, they were to carve a Maltese cross into a tree.
Okay.
But they didn't find any at all.
Probably forgot the symbol after 3 years. They're like, what was it?
What was it again? A sun and stars? A heart? So John White assumes, like deduces from these clues that the colonizers had moved to the nearby Croatoan Island, which is south of Roanoke Island. Mm-hmm. But it was, like, a particularly stormy, bad, weathery situation, so he and his men couldn't go look for them.
Okay.
His men also refused to go look for the colonists. They were like, fuck this. And they left the next day. They were like...
They tried real hard.
They were like, oh, no one's here. Oh, well, bye.
It's too stormy today. Gotta go home. Sorry.
Yeah, you know what? Fuck the shit I'm out. Oh, God. So there were two kind of main expeditions that the English did to investigate immediately after. In 1602, Sir Walter Raleigh, or Raleigh, I keep alternating between the pronunciation.
It's okay.
Walter? Wally went out to find out what happened himself. He was like, what the fuck? So he hires his own ship and, like, out of pocket, and pays, like, the wages for his crew so that they would focus on the mission. Like, he really wants them to, like, buy into it. So they get to Virginia, which is north of South Carolina, if memory serves. But again, like, bad weather, severe storm. So they had to go back to England before they could reach Roanoke Island, which is, like, crazy to me. Like, they're right there. Like, just go south. Just chill out, dock your boat. I don't know. I'm not a sailor.
No, just gotta go home. It doesn't go your way, go home.
They were like, you know what? It's bad weather. That's like, to me, the equivalent is me driving, like, all the way to your house, getting to, like, just down, being like, it's storming, I'm gonna go back home. Anyways, Wally
I'm like,
Wally
what?
gets back to England and he's arrested for treason.
Oh, okay.
So he doesn't go back.
That's not funny.
It's kind of funny. Listen, nothing wrong with a colonizer getting got.
Yeah.
In 1603, Bartholomew Gilbert.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Little Bart. Bart's like, you know what? We need to find what happened. So it also goes really well. We're really just things. A storm blows this one off course, and the team that goes ashore, so like some stay, some go on to shore, is attacked and killed by the indigenous population, who have not had a great run-in so far with the colonizers,
Yeah.
so fair enough.
Yeah.
The remaining crew goes back to England, and they learn nothing. So, Roanoke, rough time. So there are some theories
Okay.
as to what happened. So let's investigate.
Okay.
Also, shout out to historycollection.com because that's where I got pretty well everything apart from like some of the history from Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
So these are like the 8 theories that History Collection identifies. So the first is that the colonists either kind of merged with and were taken in by the indigenous populations,
Okay.
or they were enslaved. So they basically assume that happened because one of the settlers in the Jamestown settlement, which is nearby-ish, in 1607 documents 4 men that came from Roanoke who were living among the Iroquois there.
Okay.
And in the early 1600s to the mid 1700s, colonists from Europe claimed to have met gray-eyed indigenous folks that claimed to have descended from white colonists.
Okay.
And then French Huguenots, who were another group of colonists, left records of meeting blonde-haired, blue-eyed indigenous people.
Okay.
When they arrived on the Tar River. So it could be that the Roanoke population and the Croatoans, who had like what was described as a good relationship, maybe just
had a really good relationship.
Yeah, maybe joined up. So that's one. Otherwise, like it's theorized that the indigenous people who had like fairly acrimonious feelings towards them, understandably enslaved them. They were like, you know what? Come to our land.
You have no supplies.
Yeah. The second theory is like the famous like Croatoan one, and I find this like so interesting because it pops up through history around the world. So the word Croatoan, as I mentioned, was found etched into a fence post at the abandoned colony.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find really interesting is like right before he died, Edgar Allan Poe So Edgar Allan Poe famously disappeared before he died.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was found again, he was like crazy out of it.
Okay.
Like super delirious. And apparently one of the last words he said before he died in his delirium was Croatoan.
Oh.
Yeah, and we still don't know how Poe died. His official cause of death is unknown. His medical records and death certificate were like lost, and we'll really never know what happened to him the night he died. Yeah.
Interesting.
In other kind of famous disappearances throughout the 19th and 20th century, so 1800s to 1900s, the word reappears.
Okay.
So in 1888, Black Bart, who was a stagecoach robber, carved the word into the wall of his cell before he was released from prison. He was then never seen or heard from again. Amelia Earhart, who famously tried to fly through the Bermuda Triangle and then died. It was found in her journal after she disappeared in 1937.
Fucking creepy.
Yeah. So Ambrose Pierce was a famous horror writer, and he disappeared in Mexico in 1913, and they found the word Croatoan carved into one of the posts of his bed. And finally, In 1921, a Croatoan was written on the last page of the logbook of the Carroll A. Deering, which was a ship. And it was written on the last page when it crashed into Cape Hatteras near Croatoan Island.
So
The
they
entire crew
think,
disappeared.
what happens, what you say that word and boom, off to another, universe?
Who knows?
Ooh.
Yeah. And no one knows why the word is maybe they do. Maybe I just haven't researched it adequately, but from my understanding, the word is just on its own. There's no context around it. They're not we're near Croatoan Island. It's just Croatoan.
Weird.
Yeah. Another theory is that the colonists were killed. So Captain John Smith arrived to uncover what happened in Roanoke. So he arrived in 1607, and he claimed, and again, this is an allegation, that Chief Powhatan told him that he killed the people of the colony to retaliate against them for living with another tribe that didn't want to ally with them.
Okay.
Allegedly, the chief showed John Smith items that he took from the Roanoke colony to support his story, which included a musket barrel, a brass mortar, and pestle.
Okay, but at the same time, though, he could have just walked next to the empty houses and be like, "Oh, this is cool. Let me grab this shit."
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He could have just had it, and then he's like, "Oh no, it means he murdered them." No,
100%. By 1609, the story gets to England, and King James and the Royal Council then blame Powhatan for the missing colonists.
Of course.
William Strachey also backs up the story, and then in his investigation, in his work, The Historic Travail into Virginia Britannia, he confirms the slaughter, and he claims that Powhatan ordered the killings because there was a prophecy that he would be conquered and overthrown by people from that area. Unsurprisingly, historians and anthropologists think this is categorically false.
Yeah.
Because there are never any bodies or archaeological evidence that support that claim.
Mm-hmm.
Despite that, it's persisted for hundreds of years.
Plus, if he's going to murder them, why would he then hide the bodies and then confess to it?
Well, that's it. And why would they disassemble all the buildings?
Yeah.
And
no, they would move the fuck in if they wanted to.
Well, that's it. Not anytime, but when there's a big raid and a huge murder, even from thousands of years ago, they can find evidence of it.
Yeah.
Things get preserved, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
bullshit.
One that I kind of feel is more likely is that the Spanish murdered the settlers, because they'd established it to fuck around with the Spanish colonizers and their ships.
Mm-hmm.
So one theory is that the Spanish came and were like, fuck you. And England and Spain were also in the middle of a war during the time when Roanoke settlement disappeared.
But then again, if they would have murdered them, they would have found the bodies. They would have cleaned up after.
That's true.
So unless they took them.
Yeah, that's true.
Haha.
All right, fine. Yeah, you know what? That makes sense because there were no bodies ever found.
Yeah. So no matter who murders them, there's still gonna be a body.
Yeah, right, touche. And you know what? They also wouldn't have taken the time to dismantle the settlements.
No, they would have been boasting about, be like, "Fuck your people, come and find their bodies."
You know what? I honestly, I feel like it's most likely that they just upped and moved.
Oh, for sure.
Because why else would you take your houses and stuff?
They built they dismantled their houses, tried to build ships. Ships didn't work, sunk in the ocean. Fini.
So
Case closed.
Going back to one of our favorite topics.
Yes.
Another theory is that it was cannibalism. Your favorite.
Fuck. I walked right into that one.
So people, they say, either the people of Roanoke were victims of or either resorted to cannibalism.
Okay.
So understandably, other indigenous tribes were hostile to outsiders, and they weren't actually got on good terms with the settlers or the Croatoans, so the indigenous people on the southern island, below Roanoke. So I guess it's possible that one of those groups were cannibals, but again, there were no bodies found at the settlement. But I mean, unless they used the bones for something else.
Or like it would also make sense for like the colonizers to resort to cannibalism because
Well, look at
they
the-
don't know how to live off the land.
Yeah.
They don't have supplies for 3 years, so they probably like start off like eating the weak, and then there's like 2 guys left,
100%.
and they either died or joined somebody else, or that would make sense.
Here's the crux of the issue, though. There's no definitive evidence that any of the indigenous tribes in that area were cannibals, though.
No, I'm not saying the indigenous. I'm saying the like colonizers not knowing how to survive, like the indigenous that do.
Look at the Donner
resort
Party.
To that.
It happens. Yeah, I mean, there's still no evidence it ever happened, but it's a theory.
I think my boat theory is the right one.
So this one, disease, has some historical basis.
Okay.
To make it true. So they may have encountered a disease that they had no immunity to because they were in a new environment. The same way like we brought smallpox over more deliberately. So this theory presents that maybe they could have caught like a plague that maybe gave them delirium or madness or something else.
But then again, where are the bodies?
So it could be that
like unless one person survived and burnt all the bodies to get rid of the disease.
Yeah, and that gets like the people who were healthy like might have disposed of the sick because they didn't want to get ill, right?
Yeah.
And this could have then escalated into a violent situation. So what they might have done, and people have done historically, is like once like they're hit by a plague, they kind of section off the sick the way they did during like the bubonic plague and things like that.
Yeah.
And some reports from indigenous tribes in the area, there were reports of like infighting in the Roanoke tribe, or in the Roanoke settlement, I should say, before everyone disappeared.
Okay.
So it kind of supports it.
Yeah.
Unless it was some other cause of fighting, right? So this also would support the multiple reports of Europeans living within indigenous populations in the later years after the colony disappears. But the only crux of it is that like what happened to the bodies of the sick people, like you said.
Fucking chuck them to the sea.
Maybe. Or burn them. Although bones would stay behind potentially if the fire wasn't hot enough.
Well, they don't have anything else to do, so they might as well
just burning it repeatedly, just like
burning it.
Festival. Here's one you'll like.
Oh, aliens?
No. Witchcraft.
Fun. Very fun.
So there are 2 main theories that are centered around witchcraft. So either the Croatoan executed the colonists as witches, or the colonists were victims of witches who lived in the woods in North Carolina.
For sure, that's what happened.
So good. So the Croatoans believed in witchcraft and witches, and their definition of witches were people who used like evil magic to cause bad shit.
Evil. In
more polite terms. There's no evidence that the Croatoans executed witches, or that the Croatoan actually accused the settlement at Roanoke of witchcraft. They were known to condemn dangerous outsiders. So it stands to reason they could have blamed the people of Roanoke for spreading diseases to which the Croatoan had no immunity. The way that like famously or infamously happened throughout history by colonizers. So the Croatoans and other indigenous peoples tell legends of witches who live in North Carolina woods who used black magic to hurt other people. And there is a story that the people of Roanoke became the victims of these witches when they left the island, which is why they were never heard from again.
Very fun.
So one last one. Actually, sorry, there's 2 more. Oh, it's okay. Second last one. So supernatural / religious explanations.
Oh.
There have been a plethora of supernatural and religious explanations that incorporate the indigenous belief systems. While there are no like Western scientific basis for these theories, they are still sometimes taken seriously by the indigenous populations as explanations as to what happened to the missing settlers of Roanoke. They typically involve different indigenous spirits and explain not only the behavior of the colonists before they disappeared, but like also why there was no trace of them left behind.
Okay.
So, one of our faves, one potential cause was a Wendigo.
Oh!
Or Wendigos. So, as we discussed, because we find this topic fascinating, is you become a Wendigo typically through some sort of form of like selfishness or anti-collaborative behavior.
Yeah.
So, in this case, because they suspect that the colonizers resorted to cannibalism, their bodies were taken over by Wendigos, or they became Wendigos.
Okay.
So again, like if they resort to that, then that basically hypothesizes that they're still alive roaming the woods of North Carolina as Wendigos.
That's gross.
That's a good number of potential Wendigos.
Too many.
Just like
too many.
When did don't. So another theory within that like religious sect is that the Croatoan believe that there is a spirit on the island that has the power to absorb humans into the landscape, which I love this one. I think it's like poetic justice. So if the spirit was offended or angered, it could turn the people into like trees, rocks, animals, stones, like any component of that environment.
Very cool.
So if the colonists were exploiting the land, which we know they were
obviously,
and abusing it, it could have upset the spirit and offended it. So this means that the people didn't disappear. They're just
trees. They're chilling.
Yeah, you like.
So they're carving in the tree. They're like, I'm actually.
Just like Taylor turns this branch, and it's like they were right. The last one is the Croatoan also believe in what's called the Reptilian devil of the woods.
Oh.
So this is an evil spirit that can attach itself to people. Nice. And it makes people violent, greedy, paranoid, like delusional, like it really messes with them. Yeah. So the Croatoan believed that the Reptilian devil of the woods had possessed the settlers once they started to turn on each other after White left for England to get more supplies for them.
Okay.
So it kind of like took advantage of the turmoil going on to manifest itself.
Which then, like, full circle, right? With the Wendigos.
Yeah.
They become greedy and everything that they're against, they take over.
I know. It all like kind of intertwines.
It's teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work.
You're here for the Reptilian devil and the Wendigos rising together.
Good for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen. And then maybe the rest were absorbed.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Or
we're not actually being sarcastic, guys. Like we're really living for this.
Yes. Or they built their shitty boats and they went off in the sea and they sunk and they're in Atlantis. 100% that's what happened.
You guys can't see the look I'm giving Stephanie right now. Anyways.
For sure that's what happened.
We have one last theory.
Oh.
This is the Dare Stones.
Okay.
It's not a game. It sounds like a fun game, though.
Yeah, it does sound like a fun game.
It was funny when I heard, like, stones were used to, like, convey messages. I was like, imagining, like, on Lost, like, the SOS, like, in rocks. Like, help. But actually, these were stones that were found between 1937 to 1940.
Okay.
And these stones allegedly tell the story of what happened to the colonists on Roanoke Island.
Okay.
So they're called the Dare Stones because allegedly they appeared to be mostly written by Eleanor Dare, who was John White's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So our current understanding, like through historians, is that all but the first stones were a hoax.
Okay.
So the first stone, after being reviewed by, the Smithsonian Institute, the Emory University, and Dr. Haywood Pierce, and other like significant groups over the years, is like that stood up to it.
Okay.
The History Channel also did like a really great investigation into them and identified that the first one was real. The first one was fully authentic, but the rest have been carved with drills.
Okay.
But in any case, here's what these stones basically say.
Let's hear the gossip.
So the first stone, which we understand and believe to be authentic, stated that Eleanor's husband and daughter were dead, and that whoever found the stone should tell her father.
Okay. Dead of what?
Well,
does she tell?
The other side of the stone reported that only 7 of the Roanoke colonists were alive, and that indigenous people had murdered the rest. It was signed EWD, they believed to be Eleanor White Dare. So, I'll actually read the inscription on the front of the stone to you.
Okay.
Ananias Dare and Virginia went hence unto heaven, 1591. And again, I'm reading like Old English, like any Englishman show, John White, governor, via, like Virginia. Yeah. So in 1940, 47 more stones were found.
Very nice. Someone was busy.
Yeah, I'm just imagining someone just like, and they were dating until 1599.
Okay.
So like that's quite
a long time.
Yeah. It's like 9 years. One stone that was dated 1592 claims that the survivors were safe and that they were living with a tribe in the Nacoochee Valley in Georgia.
Okay.
One from 1598 claimed that Eleanor Dare had married the local chief.
Oh.
A subsequent one claimed that she had given birth to his daughter.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the tribe was unhappy about it. Just like sus to me.
Yeah. She's like a little Perez Hilton.
Yeah.
Giving the gossip.
Honestly. And just as toxic, truly. Within that stone, on the same inscription, the alleged Eleanor requested that her father bring the girl back to England with him.
Okay, so you're gonna like write a message on a rock, leave the rock there, and hope that someone's gonna find it.
Yeah,
makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, honestly. And then one from 1599 stated that Eleanor had died, but that Agnes, her alleged daughter with the chief, had survived her.
So who wrote the stone?
So what like tickles me is that all but the first ones were clearly created with a drill. God, I'm just like imagining some like person in like the 40s like, yeah, see, like, I'll make lots of money off these.
Yeah. Like at least try. Just try to like poke at it.
Yeah. At least like chisel it. Like
if she was able to do it back then, you can most certainly do it now.
Like I assume like Eleanor on like the one stone that is apparently authentic probably used like, I don't know, like I assume like a chisel and a hammer. Like we've been using those for millennia. And some loser was just like, let me get my DeWalt. 1 second.
They will never know.
Yeah, they're not gonna know this is Mastercraft. Fucking hell. People are stupid.
But it's like the last stone be like, oh, Eleanor died and she has a daughter. If these are supposed to be Eleanor, who's writing the stone?
Yeah.
Daughter just took her hobby?
Agnes is no older than 9. Like, oh, yeah. So it says, like, the stones say that Eleanor had married the chief in 1598. Agnes was not carving into stones the next year. I mean, maybe it wasn't Agnes, but, like...
she was very advanced for her age, okay?
Yeah, but, like, who the fuck else would do it? Who else gives a shit?
It's
unless
a good business.
Unless it was real and they were like, oh fuck, Eleanor the crazy stone lady, gotta keep that going. Got a really great blog going here. Let's pick up the mantle. So anyways, who knows? This. I guess we'll never know.
Oh, never. Big mystery.
Yeah, that's it. I like how like some of the like the theories are intertwined.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some makes sense, but the whole murder thing doesn't make sense because of where the bodies go.
Where was the body? Like Nancy Grace.
No body, no crime.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's how the law works.
That's exactly how the law works.
Great. Okay. God. Anyways, that's the lost colony of Roanoke.
I like that.
Shout out to Wikipedia and historycollection.com.
I'm very happy that you shout out your references because I read too many and
I'm not getting fucking sued for this podcast. Are you kidding me?
I wrote them down. I'm just not going to read every single one of them.
Okay.
Wikipedia is one of mine.
Listen, I want to be clear. I've never had a single original thought. Jesus. Okay, Esther.
All right.
Yeah.
Me turn.
Steve.
Okay. Alrighty. So my story is about the Great Amherst Mystery, also known as Esther Cox.
Esther Cox. I hope I'm not making fun of someone who was murdered.
Why are you taking a picture of me? What's happening?
And you and Lewis. I was like, I'm capturing the action for our listeners.
I'm like, this is weird.
Listen, we're famous in Europe. We're actually. Some behind the scenes. Anyways, I'm done interrupting.
Going back to my story.
It's not all about me.
So the Great Amherst Mystery, or also known as the Esther Cox Story. Do you know what? No?
No.
Perfect. So a little background on Esther. She was born on March 28th in 1960 in Upper Steag, Nova Scotia. So the story takes place in Amherst, Nova Scotia, hence Great Hamster Story.
Okay. Did you see the Great Hamster Story?
Amherst.
Okay.
So Esther. So I've read multiple articles, and some articles, there's not much that we really know about her background. So some articles say she has 6 siblings, some say 4.
She had siblings.
She had siblings. We know specifically of 3 that are a part of the story. So her eldest sister, the eldest of the family, Olive, her sister Jane, and her brother William.
Love it.
So they're all part of this family.
I love the name Olive.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, go on.
I like Olivia. I don't like Olive.
That was one of the names I was almost named.
Oh.
Olivia, Lauren, or Emma.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Well, I'm interrupting you a lot today. I'm really sorry.
It's okay.
I'm done.
So Esther's mom passed away when she was 3 weeks old, and her father eventually remarried, moved to Maine. So Esther was left in Nova Scotia, and she was raised by her grandmother.
That's awful. He's like, this family clearly has not worked out. Your mom died. I'm going to start a new one. Good luck, kids. You can live with Nana. That's so shitty.
I know.
Wow.
So her grandma raised her, and then eventually Esther went to live, and this is where like the names are somewhat important, so pay attention.
Okay.
So when she was around I think 17, something like that, 17, 18, she went to live with her sister Olive, who had married Daniel Teed.
Okay.
In the house, Esther, Jane, and William also live with them.
Okay.
And then Dan's brother, John, also lived in there.
Cool.
Olive and Dan had 2 kiddos, Willie and George.
Love that.
So there's like
a gaggle.
Shit ton of people in that house.
Yeah.
And basically just a general image of Esther. So acquaintances.
Lewis is getting up. Goodbye, Lewis.
Acquaintances would describe Esther as a strange, moody girl who was unusually fond of pickles.
What a great description. I mean, like, who doesn't like pickles?
I know.
Great.
You know you're a great person if like pickles is in your like.
Imagine if you're not the pickle girl.
This Esther is pickle girl. Moody pickle girl though.
Yeah.
People say that she was strange and moody because she was raised by her grandma.
Yeah, she's fucking. That's daddy issues for you.
But despite her being kind of weird, she was a good girl with a good reputation. So
and an affinity for a good dill. Okay.
So that's the background on our gal Esther.
Okay, love it.
So our story begins in the summer of 1878.
Okay.
Esther, she had a little crush on this guy named Bob McNeil.
Good old Bob.
Bob McNeil was one of Daniel's, who's Olive's husband.
Yeah.
Employee. So one day he asked her out on a little date, takes her out on a carriage ride. Along the carriage ride, he suddenly stops the carriage, pulls out a gun, and orders Esther out of the carriage into a wooded area nearby. Esther refuses, fights against it, and thankfully for her, another carriage is heard coming down the road. So Bobby Boy gets back into the carriage, puts his gun away, turns back around, and drops her off home.
Oh my god.
And then he leaves. Esther doesn't tell her family what happened. So she just goes to bed, cries herself to sleep. And in the following days, she is shocked and upset.
Yeah.
Because Esther is known as being a moody girl.
Esther.
Her family is just kind of like,
Believe victims. Also,
Esther being Esther.
Girls, if guys, gays, theys, if anyone does that to you, people, like, if someone does something bad to you and makes you feel unsafe, you tell people.
Yes.
God.
So the family just basically, since before this happened, McNeil was always at the cottage. And they didn't really like him. So after this incident, he just never showed up. So they're like, I guess they argued, courtship is over. Good for everyone. Unfortunately, on September 4th in 1978, things took a darker turn for Esther.
Oh, man.
So, as Esther and her sister Jane, they were both sleeping in the same bedroom. And as they were settling in for the night in their beds, Jane suddenly feels like a mouse is moving into her mattress. So she gets up, all freaked out. Her and Esther kind of look everywhere for like signs of a mouse or mouse droppings or anything. Can't find anything. So they're like, weird. There's nothing in the mattress. Go back to bed. Later in the night, they suddenly start hearing this like rustling sound under Esther's bed. Turn on the lights and kind of track down the sound to this like cardboard box that's underneath Esther's bed. Pull it out of the bed, and in front of them, it jumps up a feet in the air, lands on the ground. Nothing's in the box. They start screaming.
The box jumps up?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So they start screaming, and Dan runs into the room to see what's happening. They explain that they felt something in the mattress, and then the box just like flew in the air, and he just laughs at them, tells them to go back to sleep.
Jesus.
Yes. Following evening, Esther goes to bed early because she's not feeling well. In the middle of the night, she wakes up to her sister, screaming, "Wake up, Jane, I'm dying." Jane wakes up to seeing Esther standing in the room, her face blood red, her eyes bulging out of her sockets, and her body just starting to swell up unexpectedly.
What? Like a balloon?
Like a balloon.
Like the girl in Willy Wonka?
Yes.
Jesus
like
Christmas.
So everyone's screaming. The whole family runs into 1 second Esther is all red, and then boom, she's pale, completely swollen up. So they push her back into the bed, and they can see she's in pain. All of a sudden, there's a loud sound like thunder that sounds in the room, and then 3 loud cracks underneath her bed. Esther passes out.
What the fuck?
So the family checked out, make sure that she was alive, saw that she's still breathing, so everyone just went back to bed.
That's good.
They're like, weird. Everybody wakes up the following morning. Esther doesn't remember a single thing. So they don't talk about it.
They're just like, you know what time you looked like you were fucking like bleeding under your skin? We don't talk about that.
So, don't talk about it. It's fine.
Don't go to the hospital.
Nope.
Okay. Great. Love that. Great family. 10 out of 10.
4 nights later, Esther has another attack. Her body swells up again, but this time, her bed sheets fly off of her. And it looks like an invisible hand just like tore them off the bed, threw them in the corner of the room. So Olive, who's like, what the fuck, my sheets, goes over, grabs her sheets, but puts them back on them. Same thing, they go flying off. So the family basically start wrestling with the bed sheets.
Because that's the principal issue at hand.
They're trying to they're all putting their weight on them so the bed sheets don't fly off of Esther anymore. And the pillow that was underneath Esther's head flies off from under his John, who was Dan's brother, right in the face, violently. Goes back under Esther's bed, and John just like fucks off. He runs away.
You know how like babies have those like little zip up suits?
Yeah.
Just get Esther one of those.
So they're all fighting with the bed sheets. Again, loud knocks under her bed start, and then she just immediately goes to sleep. Everything stops.
What the fuck?
So the following day, the family calls a doctor.
Yeah.
They explain the swelling, the bizarre stuff happening, and the doctor basically laughs it off. But he's like, you know what? I will stay till like 1 a.m., but nothing will happen when I'm here. He was wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Famous last words.
So he basically shows up at 10 and examines Esther, who's already in bed because she's tired since she's been getting attacked in the last few nights.
Fuck.
And as he's examining her, the pillow that's under her head completely, as if an invisible person pulls it out from under her head, and then puts it back. And the doctor's like,
puts it back. They're like, sorry, actually.
Sorry, that was Esther. Rude. Here you go. Doctor cries out, and he's like, oh my god, have you seen this? John, he determined to win. He decides that he's going to pin the pillow down, and no one, like, whatever's doing this is not going to win.
Okay.
Obviously, pillow is wrenched out of his hand as if no one was holding it.
Of course.
And goes back under her head again. And then they start hearing that knocking sound under her bed. So the doctor goes and checks under the bed, can't see what's happening, and he looks around the room to find like an explanation, but as he's walking around the room, the knocking follows him. And then all of a sudden, they hear from behind the wall where the bed is resting on some scratching sound. Look up at the wall, and they see carved into the wall, Esther Cox, you are mine to kill.
What the fuck?
So,
I have some suspicions, but I'm going to keep them to myself.
So the paranormal activity,
you think?
After that one night has completely increased in intensity and frequency for the 3 weeks that follows that night.
Oh, and we know that happens. We know these steps.
So basically what happens after this, potatoes and wooden planks are thrown at Esther by an invisible force. That's so
waist curves.
Also now, not only in her room or under her bed, there's violent banging sounds everywhere in the house.
Yeah.
And while this is happening, the doctor is actually there. So he decides to go outside to kind of check out the house, see. And he was across the street, and he said, like, couldn't see anything, but it sounded like there was someone on the roof with a sledgehammer just, like, going at it. That's how loud it was.
Christmas.
Yes. So,
I think I know who they needed to call.
So while this has been happening recurrently, Jane, one of the sisters, she notices that the activity tends to respond to things that are being said. So her and Dan decide to come up with a system. One knock means yes. One knock means no. 2 maybe. 3 yes. And basically they start communicating with this thing.
Don't do that, guys. Don't do that.
And to see if it actually will communicate with them, he asks how many people are in this room right now. And in all the articles, it didn't say how many people were in there, but there's a equivalent number of knocks that sound, counting the other people, but these knocks shook the entire house.
Sick. Love that. So good.
So, that's been happening, all of that. People obviously talk. People were hearing about this. So multiple clergymen decide to come and show up and see what's happening. And then from all different religions, I didn't write it down because, it's not relevant to the story right now. But a lot of people came to figure out, was this a hoax? What is happening? Blah, blah, blah. So one man, so during one of the previous incidents with the loud knocking, all that, Esther kind of had a seizure, and during that episode, she kind of told them what happened with McNeil.
Okay.
And after telling them, she passed out again, went back to sleep, didn't remember telling them. The following day, family asked if it was true. She said yes. Did they do anything about it? Not according to the story.
Great family.
So one of the clergymen, I guess, he believed that the shock of the McNeil incident kind of turned Esther into this type of like electric battery.
Okay.
Yeah. And that she would emit invisible flashes like lightning, and that's why you would hear thunder in the house.
That's some science right there.
Another man, he just came over to kind of like see if it was true or not. And while he was there, he saw multiple things. One of the most notable was that there's a bucket with like very cold water, and in front of it, it just started boiling.
Okay.
But he doesn't have a theory as to why this is happening.
Great.
So this started in September. Now we're close to the end of October. Word has gone out. People across the Maritimes are coming over to visit the tea cottage and see what is happening. There's two camps. One set of people think it's a hoax, and they think that Esther is like hypnotizing people and mesmerizing them and creating all of this activity by herself. But most of the people that came to the cottage left believing it was genuine.
Also, I love, because that is like quintessential East Coast Canada.
Yeah.
Like, just, hey guys, something by. What's going on?
Heard you had a ghost.
Yeah, I love that.
Can I see?
I love that.
So the activity continued up until December, but suddenly stopped when Esther contracted diphtheria.
Rip.
She survived. She is fine.
Okay.
She recovered, and then she went to visit one of her sisters that had just gotten married out of town for 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks and the time that she was sick, no activity.
Love that for her.
So the family kind of thought, oh, well, since Esther is away, like, I guess so when she came back, Esther and Jane were always sleeping in the same room, right? So in their minds, it was them sleeping in the same room that was causing the activity.
Okay.
So they decided to separate them, thinking it was going to end the activity. But they were super wrong.
Yeah, I figured.
The activity intensified.
Great.
So not only did the entity make really loud ass noise around the cottage, he hurled a bunch of objects at everyone in the house. He also pulled up a new trick.
I love that you're referring to as he.
Well, obviously. No.
Obviously, I mean, fair.
Got a new trick during his 4 weeks vacation. The entity started dropping lit matches from the ceiling onto Jane and Esther.
Oh, that's so rude! Oh my God.
Causing mini fires everywhere.
Yeah.
There's one report where they were all sitting in Esther's room, and she had a dress hanging on a door, and they saw the dress roll up on itself, come off of the hanger under her bed, and burst on fire.
Okay. Love that.
So basically, while the matches were dropping everywhere, there's an evening a fire started in the cellar. Olive and Esther were home alone making butter. Tried to extinguish the fire, they couldn't. So they ran outside, screamed for help, and then this mysterious guy just showed up, extinguished the fire, fucked off.
Mysterious firefighter, love it.
That's how they talk about him.
Love it.
They don't know who he is.
The unsung hero.
Never seen him again.
Love it.
So in the following weeks, the entity again decided to do something new.
Ooh, mix it up.
They started to, decided to talk to Esther. But the catch is, only Esther could hear the entity. No one else can hear him.
It's a little possession-y, eh?
Yeah. And then one night she starts screaming and pointing at the corner and saying can you see him? Can you see him? And obviously everyone turned around and they're like, no.
Esther.
We cannot.
Just your friend.
So that basically happened until one night the ghost told Esther that it would burn down the house if Esther stayed at the cottage that night. So to avoid this, Dan went to his neighbors and asked if Esther could go and stay with them.
Okay.
And they had been following this activity religiously. And they're like, of course.
Jesus.
We want Esther. Okay. So, of course, the neighbors were like, yeah, we'll take her. We've been loving this story. It's been entertaining. We'll see what happens. So when she moves in, for several weeks, nothing happens. So all is good. People think it's fine. Until there's one day where she's cleaning the house, helping out, and the brush that she's holding just disappears.
The fuck?
So she tells the lady of the house, who then goes for her daughter, and everyone's looking for this brush in the house. No one can find it until it drops from the ceiling and almost hits Esther in the head.
Esther's like, really want to see a really great inconvenient magic trick? Step right up. Okay, Lewis.
So then this happened, and then nothing happened for another 6 weeks.
Oh, cool. Okay.
All right. But then randomly fires start happening in the house.
Sick.
So the neighbor, not wanting to lose his house or family, tells Esther that she gotta go.
Okay.
But he nicely offers that she goes and...
Sorry, my dog is extremely obnoxious. He would... He's like, I see that you guys are at like a very tense moment about fires. Let me just come in here. She cried over.
Are you done?
Lewis, go lie down.
Okay.
Great.
So basically, to avoid losing his house and family, he has Esther go to live in the pub that he owns. And while she is there, to the amusement of the pub patrons, shit happens.
Oh, good.
And they love it because it's entertaining. One notable event that happened while she was there is that the pub owner's son had a pocket knife in his pocket, flew out of his pocket, stabbed Esther in the back. So then they pull it out of her back.
Jesus.
For the knife to fly back into her back again.
Oh my god, like a human dartboard.
Yes.
Oh my god, Esther, you've had a rough go, honey.
It's not even close to being over.
Okay.
So yeah, that basically happened. That brings us to the spring of 1879. Esther's story is very well known at this point. So there's a military officer in St. John, New Brunswick, that calls her up and is like, "Hey girl, come and visit."
Hey girl.
So she showed up over there, and there's a bunch of I don't want to say scientists, because in the articles are like science-minded gentlemen.
Okay.
So,
men of science who aren't scientists.
so people are there to kind of figure out what's happening.
Cool.
So they develop a method to communicate with the entity that's haunting Esther.
So they're pseudoscientists.
Yes.
Okay.
So basically their method is that they ask a question, recite the alphabet, and then the entity knocks at the letter it wants, and they repeat this process until they have a full answer.
That is the most inconvenient verbal Ouija board I've ever heard.
Oh, yeah. So throughout this process, though, they do find out some answers. One of which being they've asked who the entity was, and the entity said that their name was Bob Nickel. That he was a shoemaker in his past life. But when they kept talking, they found out that Esther wasn't really haunted by just Bob.
Oh boy.
Esther was haunted by Maggie and Mary Fisher, Peter Cox, who was a relative that passed away 4 years ago, Jane Nickel, and Eliza McNeil. Sadly, I don't have more information on them, just that they've been haunting her.
There's like a gaggle of people just like hanging out with her.
So that's what they find out.
But why did they hate her so much?
We don't know.
I feel like it was actually like, okay, A, I don't believe in this stuff. B, I don't know. I feel like it's probably like, if it's true, which I don't think it is.
It's true, Emma.
I would suspect it would be more like a demon pretending to be
all of these people.
Yeah, the way that they do.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah. So, after she spends... I lost my...
It's okay.
I'm here. Okay. So after this ordeal, Esther decides to go stay with a family in Nova Scotia for 8 weeks, and nothing happens. She has a nice little 8-week vacation.
Great. Esther, recharge.
Esther goes back to the tea cottage, where immediately shit starts to happen again.
What if she just stops going there? What if she moves?
Listen, we haven't thought of this yet, okay?
Okay.
Things get worse before we think of this.
Okay.
During this time, the American actor Walter Hubble, he was on tour in Newfoundland. Obviously heard of the story and was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go move in with them. So he moves in. Obviously pays.
Nice, Wally.
And everything that we basically know of this, well, not everything, most of what we know is from his accounts. He wrote multiple books about this, and basically he was there to see if A, it's true that it's happening, and to document it.
Sounds like Wally wanted to exploit a shitty situation.
Yes.
Wally.
So basically he moves in, and he stayed with family for around like 6 weeks.
Okay.
During those 6 weeks, objects were thrown at him.
Sick.
Objects disappeared in front of him, and they were later dropped from the ceiling. He also saw objects levitating and moving to another spot in the house. Multiple fires just started up in front of him. Pretty much all that was happening. Hubble did say, though, that he never felt like he was in danger.
Yeah, because fires often make me feel safe.
Yeah. Especially with shit dropping from the ceiling. Yeah. Don't know. He said that the energy felt more mischievous. Like, the entity was doing this to annoy the shit out of the family and not to kill them.
Okay.
So that's his professional take on this.
Walter, the paranormal expert.
And also, one interesting thing to note is that the activity never happened on a Sunday.
Well, we all need a day off.
Yeah.
It's the Lord's Day.
So, Hubble was convinced that Esther wasn't actually doing this, that this was all legitimate. So he then decided to start communicating with the entities. He used the family's simpler method of 1 knock is no, 2 knocks is maybe, 3 is yes.
Okay.
And this is what he found out. The spirits had all lived on Earth once.
Okay.
They were not in heaven, though.
Apparently.
They were in hell. And they have seen the devil.
Demons!
So on June 28th, 1879, the house was suddenly woken up by the sound of a trumpet. And the trumpet played the entire day.
What did it play, though?
It just made... Yeah, it just made that the entire day. Up until the evening, where a small silver trumpet was dropped from the ceiling.
New toy.
No one owned a trumpet before this.
Oh, good.
Hubble has it wasn't his. Like no one knows where this trumpet came from. Also, one thing that one of the articles I read was like Hubble kept the trumpet with promise of like donating it, but no one knows where it is.
Of course he did. Don't like angels have trumpets in terms of like mythology? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah, but this isn't an angel.
I know, but maybe it's making fun of them.
More than likely, yeah. So basically, after this day, the activity just kept getting worse and worse and worse. It was more frequent, and it was to a point where the family was like, "Listen, Esther, you gotta go." And
oh my god, this is the worst family ever.
They're like, "You gotta go for good." So she, Hubble, decided to get her out of the house. Decided to go on a speaking tour across the Maritimes. But it didn't last very long because they weren't very well received.
Yeah, no kidding.
They were pretty much heckled at every show.
Yeah.
So then, since that wasn't going to be a solution to get Esther out of the house, Dan and Olive asked a friend of theirs if she could stay at their cottage, at their house, out of different town, I believe. I'm not sure, actually.
But who would say yes?
Well, they said yes.
Okay. I would not. I'm sorry.
So
I wouldn't kick you out, but I also wouldn't volunteer for this shit.
You would have been right in this case. So shortly after she moved in, the friend's barn burnt down.
Yeah.
And Esther was accused of arson.
Arson by proxy, I guess?
So Esther is sentenced to 4 months in prison.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. But she is released after 1 month for good behavior.
I probably didn't want to deal with her shit either.
While she was in prison, there's we don't know much information about this, but there's a guy who kept coming visit her. She left prison, got married with him.
Okay.
And they had
Things
2 children.
Things are looking up for old Esther.
Well, actually, after she got married, there's no more.
Oh, okay.
She went on to live her life. Perfectly peaceful for 2 little babies and her husband. And that is the story of Esther Cox.
I'm so happy she had a happy ending. I did not see that for her. I did not expect it to
that
be
was
good.
And that was all in a year, like in 1 year.
That was 1 year?
That was 1 year.
That felt like a decade for her.
I know.
And I wasn't even the one dealing with her shit.
Yeah. So, Esther Cox is the Great Amherst Mystery is super famous in Nova Scotia.
Okay.
And they now have this thing called Estherfest.
Estherfest?
Yeah!
Good for Esther!
Where they celebrate Esther and all things paranormal, and it sounds like we gotta go.
Oh my god, absolutely.
It sounds like so much fun.
It's very up our alley. Where is it? In Amherst, or is it?
I had the article. It's in Amherst, obviously.
Okay, yeah, I figured.
Yeah. It was canceled last year.
Yeah, I mean, everything was.
And this year too.
Yeah.
But yeah, next time it goes, we have to go to Estherfest.
Estherfest! I love that for her.
So basically, what people now believe happened is obviously poltergeist.
Obviously.
And a poltergeist is very common to domestic situations. And since Esther was around when this happened, she's believed that it depends. Some articles say she's 14, some say 17, 18, but there's more 17 to 18.
Okay.
But if you think of the math, if she really was born in 1860 and this happened in 1878, she was 18.
Yeah, which is good if she got married the next year.
So people believe that poltergeists are drawn to either moody teenagers, and Esther was known as a moody lover of pickles.
Yeah.
Also, they're drawn to traumatic situations. Obviously, with what happened with McNeil, that would have drawn in the energy.
Yeah. Lewis didn't want to miss the end of your story stuff.
No. It's okay, Lou. So, yeah, that's all I have for you.
Dang, Esther! I'm so relieved you had a happy ending.
Yeah! Everything went well.
Oh my god. You guys can't see Lewis literally just ran into the room, put his head... Oh no, he's climbing onto Steph.
It's okay, Lou. No, I'm not.
And now he's making
story.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't expect Esther to come out of that.
Esther had a shitty fucking year.
You don't say.
Like, now whenever I have, like, a hard time, I'm like, you know what? No one is dropping, like matches
fire
on me.
Yeah, 100%.
No one is showing up with a trumpet and just fucking playing for days on.
It made me think of, like, you know, like a kid starts to learn the recorder at school and they come home and they're like, listen to me play! I was like, Jesus Christ. It's like the supernatural version of that.
So, yeah.
Christ, Micaiah.
So most people believe it's true. There's not a lot of people that believe it's a hoax. I believe in Esther.
I believe that Esther believes it's true. Or believe. She's probably dead by now.
Oh, she's
been a while.
dead.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a minute.
There's like one article they're like, she would be 160 years old now.
But she's not, because she's dead. Oh, Esther. Well, I'm glad Esther survived. I'm glad Esther seemingly had a happy ending. I hope she had a happy domestic life after.
They didn't talk about it, so, you know.
Great.
We're assuming it was fine.
I guess we'll never know. We're in Roanoke.
It wasn't interesting enough to write about.
Yeah.
You know they did say the one thing I did see where she had moved away with her husband, where people haven't really heard about her.
That's reasonable.
So she could live a life of not being
anonymity.
Esther the Pickle Girl.
Esther the Pickle Girl. Pickles and ghosts. Oh my god, Esther. What a wild ride.
Yeah.
Oh, Lewis. Please don't steal the microphone. Well, because this is as good of a time as any to end the episode.
Yeah, Lewis is like sitting on the mic.
Okay. Guys, we've gotten a good number of submissions for stories. We're really excited about that.
Yeah, we want more though.
Yeah, so keep them coming.
Yes.
And as always, keep it creepy and reach out to us. We love chatting.
Yes.
Leave positive reviews.
Only.
Because Steph can't handle it.
No.
I mean, you can DM
I'm not
me.
as strong as Esther.
Yeah. Steph perseveres, but not to that extent. Hey guys, yeah, we love you.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe for more creepy content. Thanks, Lewis. All right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Creepy Vibes Only. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook by searching for Creepy Vibes Only Podcast. We absolutely appreciate and love your support, and you can do so by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribing to the show wherever you listen. If you wish to get in touch with us, you can send us an email at cvopodcast@gmail.com or leave us a voice message on our podcast's page on Anchor. We will talk to you in 2 weeks. Bye!
Yay!